All right, let's dive in. We're taking a look at my old ass today. The indie film that's been getting a ton of buzz, and you guys sent in a crazy amount of reviews and reactions. Oh, and even the film synopsis. Looks like we've got a wild ride ahead. And I'm not even just talking about their whole mushroom trip thing that kicks off the story. Seriously, though, from what I'm seeing, my old ass is getting praised for being both hilarious and heartwarming. Some reviews are even calling it a stoner comedy, but with, like, a time travel element. Okay, my head's about to explode from curiosity here, so let's bring in our expert to help us unpack all of this.
What really stands out to me from all of this is that my old ass takes this classic idea, meeting your future self, and
Yep.
it just throws it all into this crazy mix of psychedelics and humor and just some really relatable coming-of-age angst.
So it's not like Back to the Future or anything. The synopsis tells us our main character, Elliott, who's 18, has this totally wild psychedelic experience that brings her face to face with herself. But, like, 39 years old.
Okay.
I have to admit, I'm hooked already.
Right. It's such a cool concept. I mean, come on, who hasn't thought about what their future self would think about the choices they're making now? But instead of just being like super serious and straightforward, my old ass just leans right into all the awkward and messy and hilarious parts of growing up.
Totally. And the reviews are definitely picking up on that whole blend of realism and, fantasy. So we've got Maisy Stella playing the younger Elliott. And it sounds like she is absolutely crushing it, like
Yeah.
really capturing that awkwardness and vulnerability of being 18.
Yeah, the reviewers are super impressed with Stella. They're saying she just nails Elliott's inner struggles, but also, those outward attempts to just navigate the chaos of being that age.
And then you've got Aubrey Plaza playing the older, maybe wiser Elliott. And here's where things get even more interesting. Because Plaza's role is mostly voiceover, with only a few actual appearances on screen. It's like she's this ever-present voice in young Elliott's head. Kind of like sardonic and a little bit knowing.
That's so cool. Such a unique choice. And it really seems to just play right into the themes by not having Plaza physically there all the time. It keeps the focus right on young Elliott's journey of self-discovery.
Yeah, it's like older Elliott is more of a guide or a source of perspective rather than someone directly messing with young Elliott's life. What I'm getting from the reviews is that this film isn't just about the laughs. It's about embracing the present moment, even with all the uncertainty that comes with it.
Oh, for sure. And if you look a little deeper, it feels like the film is really exploring this tension between like youthful idealism and the realities of being an adult. Like at 18, you're full of dreams and expectations, but I mean, life doesn't always go according to plan.
Right. It's like the film is saying, hey, it's okay to be messy. It's okay to be confused. It's all part of figuring things out.
Yeah, exactly. And then to have your older self right there, offering up some hard-earned wisdom, even if it is delivered with Aubrey Plaza's signature deadpan humor, well, it's like comforting and hilarious at the same time.
And a lot of the reviews are highlighting this idea of gratitude as a main takeaway. It doesn't seem like this is just a movie about avoiding future regrets, but more about appreciating where you are now, even if it's not, like, picture perfect.
Totally. It's so easy to get hung up on what we want or what we think our life should be. But my old ass is kind of reminding us to just enjoy the simple things, the unexpected moments, the people who make life worth living, wrinkles and all.
Okay, so we've got this awesome premise, incredible actors, and some really heartwarming themes. No wonder my old ass was a hit at Sundance. Some critics are even calling it, like, the next big thing for indie cinema. But hold on a sec. Not all the reviews are totally glowing, are they?
That's true. There are a few dissenting voices out there. Some critics thought it was a bit cheesy, or they felt like the fantastical elements weren't fully explained, like they wanted more concrete answers.
Interesting. But I wonder if that lack of explanation is actually intentional. What if it's supposed to, like, reflect the inherent mystery of life? I mean, you don't always got those neat and tidy answers, right?
That's a really good point. Maybe my old ass isn't trying to just hand us all the answers. Maybe it's encouraging us to just sit with the unknown, to accept that sometimes the most meaningful experiences are the ones that leave us with more questions than answers.
And that's especially true when you're 18, trying to figure out who you are and where you fit in.
Definitely. I mean, at that age, you're constantly being bombarded with choices and pressures and expectations. Maybe a little healthy confusion is exactly what you need to find your own path.
Yeah, it's like the movie's giving us permission to, like, not have everything figured out, embrace the messiness of it all and just find the humor in the unexpected. Oh, and speaking of unexpected, the reviews mention some pretty quirky and memorable moments, like there's something about a Bieber song and a Sawar's Ronin Shrine,
Mm.
and advice about like avoiding boys named Chad. It sounds like they really nail that whole Gen Z vibe, but in a way that doesn't alienate older viewers, like me.
Oh, totally. Those little details are so important. It's those little touches of humor and pop culture that make the film feel so authentic and relatable. It's not just some, like, generic coming-of-age story. It feels like a real snapshot of being young and figuring things out, like right now in this culture.
Right, and it's not all just like lighthearted fun. The film doesn't shy away from the deeper stuff either. One review really highlighted how powerful Aubrey Plaza's final scene is, even though, she doesn't actually appear on screen that much.
Mm.
What do you think makes that scene so impactful?
Well, it sounds like it's all about the subtlety, like a masterclass in conveying all those complex emotions without a ton of dialogue. Plaza's character, the older Elliott, seems to have this moment of closure, like a sense of peace with how our life has turned out. It reminds us that even with all the twists and turns and, uncertainties and heartbreaks along the way, there can still be this feeling of acceptance and even gratitude for the journey.
Yeah, and it's crazy how those quiet moments can sometimes hit you harder than like a big dramatic speech. It sounds like Plaza really brings the emotional weight, even with limited screen time.
Totally. It really makes you think. What would your older self say to you right now, knowing everything you've been through and all that's still to come? Would it be words of comfort, a nudge in a different direction, or maybe just a knowing smile?
Oh, that's such a good question. If I could meet my older self, I think I'd actually be more interested in hearing about their journey, less about advice and more about just like what happened, like what were their biggest wins? What did they learn from their mistakes? What surprised them the most?
I think that's exactly what my old ass is getting at. It's not about getting some, like, cheat sheet for life. It's about understanding that the journey is what shapes us. And maybe our older selves wouldn't have all the answers anyway.
Right. It's like we're all just figuring it out as we go, and that's okay. So let's bring it back to our original question. Does my old ass actually live up to all the hype?
From what we've discussed so far, it seems like it definitely delivers on the humor and the heart and those thought-provoking themes.
It definitely seems to be hitting home with people. And for those critics who wanted more, concrete explanations, I almost think they're missing the point. Like, that ambiguity, that's part of the charm. It's an invitation to engage with the uncertainty of life and find your own meaning.
I like that. It's not a movie that just spells everything out for you. It's one that sparks conversations and makes you think about your own life. Your choices, your relationship with your future self. It's a great reminder that every experience shapes us. Every decision, every stumble along the way. And sometimes the most unexpected paths lead to the most fulfilling destinations.
We've talked about this a bit already, but let's circle back to the criticisms about the unexplained stuff. Some reviewers wanted a clearer explanation for the whole time travel aspect, the psychedelic experience that brings young Elliott face to face with her older self. Do you think that's a valid criticism, or is the film intentionally leaving those details open to interpretation?
I think there's room for both, honestly. Some viewers might want a more a concrete and logical explanation, but for me, the ambiguity is a good thing. It lets the audience fill in the blanks and connect with the story in a more personal way.
And maybe that's kind of like life itself, right? You don't always get a clear explanation for why things happen.
Plus,
Sometimes you just got to roll with it and embrace the mystery.
Totally. And I think that's a big part of why this film resonates with people. It captures that feeling of being young, facing a world full of possibilities, but also anxieties and unanswered questions. It's like the film is saying, hey, it's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to screw up. Just, keep figuring things out.
It's like the film is giving you permission to be imperfect.
Yeah.
To just embrace all the messiness and find the humor in the unexpected.
Exactly. It's a celebration of the whole journey. With all the ups and downs, it's not about reaching some specific destination.
It all goes back to that question we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
If you could meet your older self, what advice would you want?
After digging into my old ass, I'm not even sure I'd want advice anymore. I think I'd rather just hear their stories, like their reflections on the choices they made and the lessons they learned.
Oh, yeah, totally. I'd want to know what surprised them the most, what they're most proud of,
Yeah.
what they do differently, if they could go back.
It's like the film is saying the best wisdom isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about learning from them and embracing all the unpredictable stuff that happens.
So instead of asking our older selves for a roadmap, maybe we should be asking for a good story, one that makes us laugh and think.
Yeah.
And maybe even inspires us to, embrace our own messy, unpredictable journeys.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like My Old Ass is more than just a coming-of-age movie. It's a reflection on, life itself, those moments of figuring yourself out, the questions, the uncertainty. We can all relate to that no matter how old we are.
Definitely. It's a reminder that growing up isn't some finish line you cross. It's an ongoing process of evolving and accepting who you are. And there's beauty in every stage of that, even with all the wrinkles and maybe questionable decisions along the way.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So as we wrap up our deep dive into My Old Ass, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from all of this?
If I had to pick one thing, it would be to embrace the unknown. Whether it's the uncertainty of the future or the weird twists and turns that life throws at you, or even just a movie that leaves you with more questions than answers, there's something really valuable in leaning into that mystery.
I love that, letting go of the need for everything to be perfectly explained and just enjoying the ride. It sounds like My Old Ass is a film that's funny and heartwarming and ultimately leaves you feeling hopeful.
Exactly. It reminds you that even when things get messy and confusing, there's always something to learn, something to laugh about, and something to be grateful for. And hey, maybe a little time-traveling wisdom from our future selves wouldn't hurt either.
Perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely adding My Old Ass to my watch list now. And for our listeners, if you're looking for a movie that'll make you laugh and think, and maybe even feel a little bit better about the beautiful messiness of life, this might just be the one. Thanks for joining us on another deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and remember, even old asses have stories worth telling.